Hey everybody, it's Mitch, and welcome to my next video. Today we are going to be doing another Naruto character review, and today we will be talking about Kabuto Yakushi. So Kabuto's, he's definitely one of the more interesting characters in the show. I mean, so let's first say spoilers, as always. So if you haven't seen the show, definitely want to check it out, because there's going to be pretty heavy amount of spoilers. This goes pretty deep into the show as well. So, and that's Shippuden, by the way. So you want to watch a lot. There's definitely some for Naruto as well. Definitely some for Kabuto. So Kabuto, let's start at the beginning. Who is he? Well, everyone knows he's Orochimaru's right-hand man, but how did he get to be Orochimaru's right-hand man? Well, to start, he was found outside of a village after a battle, and he had amnesia, which he never had cured. So he never figures out who he was before that. That's actually still a mystery that never gets solved. So interesting. There's definitely some rumors and speculation on all that, but we really don't know who he was before that, what his lineage is, or any of that. But it can definitely be derived that he was something special, because Orochimaru definitely figured that out. But immediately after being revived, being found after this battle, it was found by a medical ninja who ran an orphanage, and she took him in. He called her mother because he had no one else. She gave him the name Kabuto. She gave it because of the helmet that he wore. She gave him some glasses because he had bad vision. You know, she did what she took care of him, and she really she really she was really there for him. So yeah. Then after that went on for a while. He learned some medical ninjutsu from her. He in order to pay for the bills for the orphanage, because he really cared about that. Like, that was his home, and he was very big on helping out his home. He was just a good kid. Then one day he was tending the wounds of a ninja after a war who happened to be Orochimaru, and Orochimaru recognized his talent and told him he should become a ninja. And he's like, no, no, no. I'm just trying to earn money for earn money for the orphanage. I could never become a ninja, but thanks though. Very polite, because he was a very good kid. But he suffered with really having a sense of who he was because of that amnesia. He gained some sense of it because, from the name that he had been given by his mother and from the glasses she gave him, but it wasn't really a full, complete sense of identity, but he hung on to that because that's all he had. And Orochimaru kind of saw that weakness, and he got at the time Orochimaru was part of the Foundation with Danzo, and he talked Danzo into he let Danzo know about his mother, who was actually a former spy for the village, and he got her to start working again. Kind of forced her into it if they wanted to keep getting money for the orphanage. And on top of that, they also forced Kabuto to also become a ninja for it. Well, they said one of the kids, and he volunteered because he overheard it, and Orochimaru definitely wanted him to overhear it, because they wanted him as part they became spies, basically. She was a spy, he became a spy. He did it so that he could so that he could help out his family. Like, he was willing to sacrifice himself for his family because he's just a good guy like that. At least he was as a kid. Things changed though. So after years of being a spy, his mother being a spy as well, and them being apart, one day he was looking at his watch when he got attacked by an enemy shinobi. So he countered and attacked her back, and turned out it was his mother, and she didn't recognize him. He was heartbroken because he's like, "How can you not recognize me?" And she did not believe it was him, and it tore him apart to see that. It literally tore him apart. And while he was grappling with that, trying to figure out what had just happened, because he tried to heal her, and she was like, "Who are you?" He's like, "I'm Kabuto," and she's like, "Who are you?" It's like, and he's really grappling with his own mother, like betraying him. Like she doesn't even recognize him. If she doesn't, which his whole sense of identity was based off of her, and if she didn't recognize him, then who was he? Like that was what was going through his head. Like his whole sense of not only did he have the normal emotions that would come with having been forced to kill your mother, and her not recognizing you. He also had the whole thing of, who am I, on top of that? That just killed his sense of identity. So that was a big that really set the tone for who Kabuto would become later. Especially seeing as while he was grappling with that, Orochimaru appeared and told him what happened. Orochimaru told him, "Hey, actually, what happened was, so the Foundation was planning for you to kill each other since the beginning. They were going to have you gather some information and then kill you both. Um, so apparently, she had agreed to do a mission in exchange for Kabuto's freedom." But she had been given pictures to tell her of a false Kabuto as he grew up. So she no longer, which is why she no longer recognized him, because they used some photos of a guy that looked very similar, a kid that looked very similar to him, and as he started to age, he looked different, and Kabuto looked like an imposter to her. So she didn't believe it was him. She thought it's like, he kind of looks like him, but it's not him. Therefore, he must be an imposter trying to betray me in the village. So there was that, and so that's why she did it, and so she was trying to kill him, not knowing it was him, in order to free him. So yeah, pretty underhanded what they did. And what Orochimaru did wasn't much better, since he orchestrated the whole thing to begin with. So he's probably even worse, actually. And he did it all just so he could get Kabuto as a tool for him, because he recognized Kabuto's skills and was like, "Hey, if I can screw with this kid, maybe I can brainwash him into being my subject." And it worked pretty well for him. Orochimaru got Kabuto very well under his thumb. Yeah. So it wasn't long after that Kabuto assumedly went back to the village, posing as an ordinary genin of no particular talent. Not quite sure how they managed that one, especially seeing as Danzo knew of his talent. And assumedly the third Hokage would have known something of it, or at least Danzo would have passed it on. But somehow they managed, that info didn't get passed on, and Kabuto was able to go back to the village as a normal kid. And he took the Chunin exam many, many times, but kept failing over and over and over, until one time where he took it, or he did fail at this time too. But this time was a little different, because this time he ran into, and this is where we first meet him in terms of the story. I'm going in terms of Kabuto's actual life story, but this is where we first meet him. And, he runs into Naruto posing as like this good, nice, innocent guy, and very helpful. He's got these cards that have info on all the shinobi. It's like, wow, that's really good to have all this info on all our opponents. So he's like really got Naruto, and Naruto's back. He's really helping that Team 7. And yeah. Um, uh, And of course, somewhere along the way, Orochimaru gives Sasuke the curse mark. Kabuto's not there when that happens. You then see Kabuto help them even more as they get farther in. However, it's quickly revealed that he's actually a Sound Village spy. And yeah, so he was working alongside Naruto and helping him out, but it's not long before you realize that he could handle the tuning exams just fine if he really tried, especially seeing as he goes out because he just resigns because he says he can't handle it. And yeah, it's not long after that Kabuto tries to kill Sasuke in the hospital and ends up fighting Kakashi. He doesn't beat Kakashi, but he's able to escape at the very least. Kakashi's only able to chase Kabuto off. But Kabuto is able to kind of sort of hold his own against Kakashi, which is pretty impressive in all reality. You also see him that he's he's the point man for the whole Sound and Sand Alliance. You see, man, he does so much stuff. He's almost always like the go-to guy. He works for Orochimaru as an Akatsuki spy for a long time, posing as one of Sasori's puppets. So Sasori thinks that he's found himself a spy for Orochimaru, and really it's the other way around. He's not even really a double agent. His true allegiance is with Orochimaru, not with Sasori. He's just pretending to be loyal to Sasori, even though Sasori has no clue of this. So yeah, that's a major character aspect to him. Let's see, what else does this guy do? He ends up, he's just always there whenever you see major fights with Orochimaru, like the big Sannin battle between Tsunade, Orochimaru, and Jiraiya. Like, he's there in that fight, fighting against Tsunade. The guy's freaking crazy with how good he is. Like, Tsunade scrambles his senses so that his body doesn't know which signal does what anymore. Like, each signal does, like, the signal for all the voluntary muscles have all been scrambled, so they all do something different than what they normally do. And after a couple of minutes, Kabuto's figured it out well enough that he can still fight fairly well, and like he's keeping up with Naruto. I mean, Naruto's still just a beginning and not that great at this point, but I mean, he knows the Rasengan, and he does manage to eventually hit Kabuto with it, although Kabuto keeps him from doing it for quite some time. Like, Kabuto's got some serious skill. Because, I mean, he's keeping up with the freaking Sannin. Yeah, all the Sannin are handicapped. The only ones who aren't handicapped at the get-go are, I think, Kabuto and Shizune. Actually, I think Shizune is too. Oh, Naruto's not handicapped either, but Naruto's just not at the same level. So him fighting at full, at least at this point, Naruto gets way stronger than any of them. But at this point, he's like nothing compared to these guys. So him fighting at full, he's able to keep up. But Kabuto, he gets slammed by Tsunade, and he has his senses scrambled. That throws him off for quite some time. Yeah, and he really holds his own and really keeps up the fight for Orochimaru. Like, without him, Orochimaru probably would have lost that fight pretty handedly. Now, let's see. You see him pop up from time to time, like after Sasuke gets taken. You see he's pretty instrumental in that whole thing. He's constantly with Sasuke while Sasuke has been taken by Orochimaru. Like, him and Sasuke do not get along at all. But Orochimaru kind of is like, yo, keep your corners. But the two truly don't like each other. And after Sasuke kills Orochimaru, Sasuke leaves, and Kabuto, he sticks around and absorbs Orochimaru into himself. like kind of like, because he's, you know, still with Orochimaru gone, he lost his sense of identity, because, you know, he'd always been struggling for that sense of identity. And how Orochimaru managed to win his loyalty is, well, once he destroyed Kabuto's sense of identity again, he let him reestablish it as his right-hand man. And that became his new identity. And he was very big on that identity for a very, very long time, which is why he was so loyal. But when Orochimaru died, he lost it again. And he just started trying to become Orochimaru. Like, that was what he decided to do, because of many things that Orochimaru had said, that to figure out who you are, you need to add to yourself. So he just started adding to himself, absorbing Orochimaru and pretty much all of Orochimaru's empire into himself. And he became something inhuman. And yeah, he learned the reanimation jutsu. He was the one responsible for every single reanimation in the Great Shinobi War. Like, yeah, Toby had this whole plan with White Zetsu, but I mean, those reanimations were so much more deadly in the initial phases. So Kabuto really had a big hand in all of that. Yeah, I think he even revived Madara, although that was never part of the plan, and that kind of messed with things a little bit. But yeah, there was so much that happened that Kabuto did. Like, he really just single-handedly altered the scope of this war. Like, he changed that war so much. He really dwindled down the Allied forces. He kind of messed with Madara's plan a little bit by reviving Madara with the reanimation jutsu, so that he had to, which kind of threw a wrench in things for his proper revival, but not completely. It was definitely something. Yeah, although I don't know if they could have done it without that, because they were planning on using Pain's Rebirth ninjutsu, which I don't think which he died, so without the reincarnation that might have never worked. Hard to say. I don't know if Obito could have pulled something off, but anyways, yeah, Kabuto really reshaped that whole landscape, which is why Itachi, after he had freed himself from control of that jutsu, using using the Mangekyo Sharingan in Susui Uchiha's eye. Man, I cannot pronounce that. But he used that in order to put himself under his own genjutsu, which he had set up before he died. And that allowed him to gain control of himself. And he then was able to took down Kabuto using the Izunami, and which was able to undo the jutsu, which the Izunami kind of put Kabuto in this like weird trance of where he was forced into a loop until he could learn to accept himself, which was something he had been struggling with his whole life. So Itachi actually did him a huge favor by doing that. Like, it forced Kabuto to really confront his demons and really come to grips with who he was and figure out and develop a sense of self for himself, something he'd been struggling to do his entire life. So Itachi really did him a solid with that. And he did manage to escape eventually, because I think you see it at the very end of Shippuden, and then he does show up in Boruto. So there's that. Yeah, man, Kabuto is one of the most interesting characters. Like, he is involved in so many different things, in trying to like prepared for this, I'm like, okay, what did Kabuto do? It's like, oh yeah, there's that. Oh, and yeah, that. Like, man, there's just, he was involved in so many different things. His character's arc is so ridiculously complex. Um, I mean, there's some incontinuities, like how after he became Orochimaru's puppet, like how the heck did he end up getting back into the village? Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't know how they swung that one, but somehow they did. Seems to me that they didn't really fully think that through when they developed his backstory, because I'm pretty sure the backstory was developed well after the whole him doing the tuning exams with Naruto. But yeah, um, yeah, I'm sure there's some instances with Kabuto that I'm missing. I know he shows up a lot in a lot of the movies, although that's not exactly canon. Um, but yeah, Kabuto is one of like the go-to characters for both canon and non-canon. He shows up so often for all sorts of different plot devices. Yeah, so let me know what you think about Kabuto. Please leave a comment down below. I definitely love hearing from you guys. Also, if you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a like. If you haven't already done so, consider subscribing to the channel, and maybe ring that bell so that you don't miss any content. YouTube tends to be bad about updating people, and if you enjoyed the video and you know some friends who you think might enjoy it, consider sharing it. But as always, I'm Mitch, and I'll be seeing you